Our next speaker is from FADU. It's Jiho Lee, the CEO and founder, who has joined us previously and always has some incredible new innovation to talk about. He was a former partner at Bain & Company, an extraordinarily successful serial entrepreneur involved in many businesses in technology, telecom, and the energy field. As CEO, he has established FADU as a fabless semiconductor innovator, uniting exceptionally a team of talent to create a revolution in data center and storage for next generation computing architectures. Jiho holds a BS and master's degree in engineering from Seoul National University and an MBA from the Wharton School of Business in Pennsylvania. With him will be Ross Stenford. He's a prominent member of Meta's storage hardware team. He has over 20 years experience developing and bringing leading-edge storage products to market. Ross works closely with several of the industry associations that are part of Flash Memory Summit, including NVMe, the NVM Express, SNIA's Form Factor Working Group, and the Open Compute Project to innovate the next levels of industry standards and initiatives. He has experience including ASIC design, has an appreciation of the challenges facing SSD providers, and just an incredible talent. He has over 40 patents and an electrical engineering degree from Cal Poly State University, St. Louis Obispo. Please welcome these gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you. You can sit there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for today. I'm very happy to be here with Ross Stenford, as like the last year. Today, I will continue to discuss about the data center SSD. And probably you will find a very similar thing from the last year, but it's not because we are not progressing, but because this is quite critical and very, very important. So let me start with this year industry overlook. As you know, this year is very painful for everyone in this industry. Even today, I have some discussion with a couple of people. No one is really sure whether we are in the bottom or still we need to wait another bottom. But we cannot just stay and pray. We need to move forward. And in technology industry, as you may know, most important thing is quite clear. We need to innovate. So innovation is most important thing to change this environment. So thanks to our customers, now customer is asking much better product than before. We need to create a better product. We need to deliver the much more value. So thanks to the kind of AI, we are seeing that there is a lot better SSDs required. At the same time, the PCI Gen 5 also introduced. And I would like to mention about the OCP. As a supplier of the SSD industry, we really love the OCP. It's really interesting standards to the consolidate or requirement from the customer. It makes everyone in this industry easier to live. We can develop the product much easier. At the same time, our customer can get the better product in a faster time frame. So we really like the OCP. So particularly today, we'd like to hear more about what OCP is required, and what kind of the OCP customer would like to have. And following that, I would like to discuss about how we can answer about this product. So please welcome Ross Stenford. He will discuss about the OCP SSD. Thank you.
Gio, thank you very much for inviting me today. It's very kind of you. So I'll start off with my favorite slide from the lawyers, and we will continue on here. So let's give some hyperscale perspectives on the matter. We will start with flash form factors here today. Here you can see the trend focus numbers for the data center enterprise market share. You see 2.4% in 2021, not very interesting. Go to 2022, 8%, you know, big lift in percentage of market share. Projecting out to 2027, 40% of the market share, E1S. What this says is E1S that provides the density, the thermals, the SI, serviceability, all of the things that are needed in the market today for form factors. As you see, this ramp continues to make significant progress. Next, let's talk about the OCP data center NVMe SSD specification. We've talked about collaboration today, an important part of collaboration. This is a great example of collaboration. Let's rewind. 2019, Meta and Microsoft got together and said, you know, we need to collaborate. We need to figure out and have public specs for what are the requirements for an SSD. We got together. In 2020, we contributed the first version, the 1.0 version of this specification. Then our friends at Dell EMC and HPE, they came along too and said this is a good idea, and they joined the effort. And we contributed the 2.0 specification. Now we jump ahead to 2023. Google is also joining our effort in this. So we're targeting of having the 2.5 spec out in 2023 this year. Having this public specification enables a lot of great things. Open source tooling. You know, now rather than have all this proprietary work, now we can all use open source tooling because the requirements are clear. Everybody knows what's going on here. You see a link there to the NVMe CLI spec. You also see a link to the 2.0 spec there. Some of the key deliverables for the 2.0 spec: debuggability, serviceability, flexible data placement, issues found in deployment, clarification, bug fixes. Now let's look at this from a non-engineering point of view. Let's look at the triangle there on the bottom left. You see features, quality, schedule. These are all very important things in the project, and you always get one of these corners. You can work really hard, and sometimes you can get two, but it's very unusual where you come up with a collaboration that you can get all three of these things together. Where the OCP data center NVMe spec enables more features, better quality, enables you to get faster. It's an industry collaboration win between the hyperscalers and the SSD market. We all get what we need. Now, let's talk about the future of telemetry and debug. I hate to say it, earlier we heard Pablo from Microsoft beat me to the punch of the importance of OCP and debuggability. And I'm going to also tell you the same thing. You know, the traditional markets, smart logs, vendor unique logs, sending encrypted logs to suppliers, this doesn't work. Hence, we've been working on this in OCP. And so in the OCP data center NVMe spec, the 1.0 spec, we add the health information log. This provides a bunch more helpful information based on deployments of scale of what do we need to know about the drive. Then in the 2.0 spec, we added latency monitoring. Latency monitoring enabled timing the commands in and out of the drive at scale, real time, live traffic. So when there are latency spikes, you can debug the drive and figure out what's wrong. You don't have to reproduce issues that you cannot reproduce. You can isolate what is a drive problem, what is not. Now, coming to the 2.5 spec, continuing on this path, we have formatted telemetry. It extends flexible, human-readable telemetry at scale. Thus, using an open source CLI, which is going to be the OCP NVMe CLI, you can now decode the telemetry and have so much more information about the device. It will enable improved debug, faster qualification cycles, effective debug at scale. Very powerful. Now, continuing on our journey, let's talk about flexible data placement. So, to understand flexible data placement, we should start off with why is write amplification undesirable? It results in additional media reads, media writes, affects performance, QoS, and these extra media writes cause non-host induced media wear. And let me give an example here. Let's look at random write. If you have a WAF of 1, your random write and sequential write performance are the same. If you have a WAF of 5, your random write is only 20% of your sequential write. Why is this? It's because all these back-end media garbage collection writes are using up all your bandwidth. So let's talk about the history of this problem. The problem's not new. It's been around a long time. And go back to the early 90s. The solution was over-provisioning. Just buy a bunch of extra NAND and don't use it, and we'll improve garbage collection efficiency. Then in 2007, 2008, people were like, oh, there's a better solution. There's trim and deallocate. We can deallocate the data, create free space. That will improve things. Now, jump ahead, 2022. The next step in this evolution is flexible data placement. How did this come about? It's an interesting story. So Google was investigating write amplification, and the result they came in with was data placement is the key, and smart FTL is the solution to this. At the same time, Meta, another hyperscaler, we were investigating write amplification. What did we come out with? Data placement is the key to this problem. We came up with a direct placement mode proposal. Out of this, Google and Meta, through collaboration, decided we should merge our independent learnings and come up with the best industry solution for everybody. So the best features out of all the proposals came together to generate flexible data placement. There's a link down here at the bottom. It's now fully ratified in MA Express. This happened in December 2022. And now let me give a high-level overview. It enables the host to provide hints of where to place the data. The hint, it's a virtual handle pointer. Device changes are relatively small. The device places the data in a superblock based on a hint rather than choosing its own superblock. It also advertises the size of its superblock, and that way the host knows how the data is being placed. What functionality doesn't change? Read doesn't change. You still write. There is an optional write handle that's added. Trim, deallocate, security, all these things stay the same. It's backwards compatible. Thus, you can buy devices, standard devices with FTP and turn it on when your software stack is ready. If you have a problem, you can turn it back off. It's backwards compatible, so it's very easy to integrate into the systems. And applications are not required to understand FTP to get benefits from FTP. If you want the maximum benefits of it, though, applications that understand FTP do get increased benefits. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me, well, you said a lot of stuff, but show me the data. So I have a slide for you today. Shows if you start at the graph on the left, you see write amplification and the vertical axis. You see time in the horizontal axis. And we'll start with this blue line. It's a standard drive, 64K random write. And you see the write amp goes a little over 3. Not surprising. And then you say, well, my guys are really smart. We do 8 writers, log structured, and you see that there in the yellow. You see the 8 writers, log structured writes in yellow, and your write amps, roughly 2.4, something in that neighborhood. So yeah, you did reduce it a little bit below 3. It improved it for sure. Then let's look at the line on the red. Then you take the log structured 8 writers, 64K, the line in red, and you see your write amp is just a tad over 1 in comparison. Very significant improvement for write amplification. Now, let's go to the slide on the right, and what you see on the right is you see the line in red, and you see a couple things. The first is you see much, much higher write bandwidth you have with FTP, and you see the stability is very, very stable. Both of those are very advantageous in many deployments. So what does this one example show? I know many people show many pieces of data and the benefits of FTP, but this example shows we reduced wear 2 to 3x. Thus, the SSD lasts 2 to 3 times longer. And FTP improved the write throughput by 2 to 3x and improved the quality of service. Thus, standard SSDs with FTP have significant improvement in wear, quality, QoS. They just work better. And it's backwards compatible. So if you have a problem, you can switch. That also explains why there are lots of FTP open source activities going on right now. It's data like this has got everybody excited. You see the kernel's been updated, XNVMe has been updated, QEMU has been updated, FIO has updates, NVMe CLI is updated, CacheLib is ongoing. Realize, you look at all these updates, this was just ratified in December, It shows the speed the industry is moving on this because it delivers real value and real benefits to the industry. Now, let's talk about, as an industry, where we've been and where we're going a little bit. Sometimes it's helpful to look at the big picture. So we start out 2018, 2019, E1S as an SSD form factor with enclosures and heat sinks was ratified, and improved SI, thermals, power, security, density. And we showed how the market is ramping on these. We talked about the OCP data center NVMe, 2020, 2021. This is hyperscale and enterprise customers and aligning on requirements and needs. Now, 22, 23, we're talking about flexible data placement and how the right amp improves endurance, performance, QoS, power. And we talked about, when we look at 23 and 24, we're talking about SSD telemetry, debug improvements. Lots of us are talking about how hyperscales need these things. And this is defined in the 2.5 spec. It improves debug, time to market, reliability. What is the next thing after this? As an industry, we need to think about open source and SSD qualification testing. I am confident we can all write a whole lot of firmware update tests. The question is, as an industry, how much value does that really create? And if we can figure out a path to open source SSD qualification testing, the amount of value we will generate for ourselves in industry is high. So I don't have a recipe of how we do it, but it's something we need to think about as an industry. And with that, Gio, thank you for inviting me today, and let me pass things off to you.
Thank you very much. It's all about what our customers needed. And let me just go back. What is the E1.S and what is the SSD situation? So there is two simple direction that the industry is heading. They would like to have the better performance than before. At the same time, they would like to have the smaller form factor. Comparing with the U.2, E1.S is much smaller, which can create a lot of issue. You may remember my previous keynote. We are obsessed about the power and heat. That is the most critical problem that SSD have at this moment. I met a couple of people today, and many people complain about too hot SSD in their notebooks. That creates a lot of issue. So as you know, we have been focusing on how we can make power optimized SSD during the last couple of years. So we'd like to discuss that matter more, because with the Gen 5, that matter is much more critical than before, and we are advanced than any other competitor in this market. So we'd like to stress everyone should focus on that matter much more than before. So we'd like to discuss about the SSD perspective going forward. So that is actually the shared with the loss last year. So as you know, the many companies are just focusing on the SSD using 25 watt. It's not usually designed for U.2, but it is not sufficient, particularly for U1.S. The 25 watt is not enough because form factor is much more smaller, and the real data center environment, you cannot operate the SSD properly with a 25 watt. Considering the overall environment in the server, you need to develop the SSD with less than 20 watt. That is critical power point. If you cannot deliver the 20 watt with the full performance, you cannot deliver the full performance of SSD because it's too hot. So let's look at the detail. If you have the 20 watt of SSD, you need to allocate at least 11 watt to the NAND and DRAM. If you cannot, the NAND cannot deliver the proper performance. Then you will have only 7 watt. 7 watt is quite critical. If you cannot make controller using the 7 watt, if your controller is consuming more than 7 watt, you cannot allocate enough power to your NAND, then that creates a matter. You cannot deliver the proper performance. So 7 watt is a magic number of the Gen 5. Gen 6, that kind of number would be another challenge. But already you are seeing the big challenges about power consumption. So now we are happy to announce our Gen 5 controller. It's a 16 channel, full performing SSD controller, covering the entire data center on the server demand for that. And while we are delivering the full performance of the Gen 5, we can maintain the less than 20 watt in SSD level. Our controller is the most power efficient SSD controller in the market, and which means we can deliver the full performance of SSD in any environment. Let me show you some example. That's our comparison in our lab. So that's kind of the temperature testing. The top is kind of any other controllers usually consuming 9 to 10 watt. In our controller, we are consuming the 7 watt. As you know, NAND is a really bad memory. It's a particularly weak in heat. So it cannot go over 75 degrees Celsius. So you cannot manage the SSD performance without the power management. Because our controller is much, much power efficient, we can maintain around 20 degrees Celsius lower than our competitor the same performance. That is critical, particularly the Gen 5. You already heard many complain about the too hot SSDs. We are solving that problem perfectly. That's why our customers would like to work with us, and the many customers would like to use our controller for their SSDs. So I would like to say, any customer, any data center, you need to think about the power consumption. That is most critical metric for the SSD controller going forward. And as I said, we really love the OCP. You'd like to incorporate any OCP requirement in our SSD. So we already implemented FTP on our customer sample. You can see our FTP live demo in our booth. So please visit our booth to discuss about what is FTP, how we can comply with the OCP standards. And one more news from our side is that we actually made the IPO yesterday in Korean stock market. So I'm very happy about that because it can give the confidence to our customer. By far, I got many questions. Okay, what if you are belly up? Can I continue to work with you? Can I get your controller properly? But now I can say we are a very stable company. You don't worry about anything about our stability and the continuity of our product. So we got many requests from our customer. Some of them are happy to get just our SSD as a full turnkey solution, meaning the hardware and firmware together. But also we got a request from our customer who would like to build their own firmware. By far, we didn't have the solution for that. But now we are expanding our business portfolio. So now we announced a new business model. If you'd like to build your own firmware, you can buy the control from us. You can build your own firmware. We can help that. We are providing the SDK and the required the tool to build your own firmware. So it's another expansion. So we expect that you can see so many kind of SSDs using FADU solution going forward, particularly in Gen 5 from this year. We don't really want to stop with the SSD. We'd like to explore all possibility of the NAND-based kind of product. So the first one is we are expanding our product portfolio. In Gen 3, Gen 4, we have only one controller per generation. But from Gen 5, we decided to develop two different kind of controllers. As I explained, the 16-channel controller is already out. So it will be already kind of the CS level. So you can see our live sample in our booth today. And we are now developing the 8-channel controller. As I said, usual 16-channel controller consume around 9 to 10 watt, and the 8-channel controller usually 7 to 8 watt. But in our case, our existing 16-channel controller consume around 7, even 6 point something watt. And in our 8-channel controller, we expect that we can deliver the full performance of Gen 5 with less than 6 watt. The 5 would be our target. So you can continuously enjoy low power, low heat SSD with the full performance going forward. At the same time, we are very interested in CXL ecosystem. So we are developing the two chips. One is CXL SSD. It will go with the PCI Gen 6. So in our PCI Gen 6, we are not only providing the PCI Gen 6 controller because I think that the Gen 5 is already enough. Gen 6 is overkill. So in the case of that, probably one thing that we can add value is a CXL. So we are hardly developing the CXL SSD. At the same time, to make the better ecosystem, we are investing in a CXL switch. So from this year, we are announcing some POC, the samples in SCE and some next year FMS. You can enjoy the full ecosystem of that. So I understand we are contender. We are not leader. But we have a big vision to be a leader of this industry. So you'd like to continuously invest in a new technology. You'd like to continuously introduce new product. So we are happy to work with everyone in this industry. We are providing the proper solution to you. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation today. Thank you.